Just to introduce myself, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Louise Glennon. I'm Advocacy Officer with Amnesty International, and I work on the Economic, Social and Cultural Rights campaign. Amnesty are a member of the ESC Rights Initiative, so that we're basically a collective of organisations who've been working together since July 2012, I think, and have just basically come together with a view to advancing human rights protections in Ireland, particularly economic, social and cultural rights, health, housing, education, adequate standard of living, and many more. There's a broad range of organisations that are part of the initiative. We meet approximately once a month. Sometimes we've got a lot of business, sometimes we don't have so much, but we've held events, and one of our events has been quite successful insofar as we had a representative of every political party at it, and at that meeting each representative publicly committed to support ESC rights as part of an item to be reviewed on the agenda with the Constitutional Convention. And then in addition to that, we've also made a submission to the Constitutional Convention, and about 30 organisations and individuals signed that submission. So membership is organic, but the more the merrier, and we'd encourage everybody here to get involved if you're interested in what you hear today. And I suppose the purpose of today really is just to talk about human rights in Ireland, and in particular those economic, social and cultural rights, like the everyday rights of health and housing, education, standard of living type of issues. Most of us here work on those rights on a daily basis, or otherwise have an interest in those rights and are interested in seeing them protected in Ireland in a better or more stronger, more robust way. So I suppose we just wanted to get people together to share information about how we work on these issues, but also to try and get some new faces together. And I think there is quite a lot of new faces here today, certainly for me anyway, so thank you very much for coming. And I suppose the reason why this meeting is here and now, and what's taken up a lot of the work of the ESC Rights Initiative for the last few months, is in relation to the Constitutional Convention. For those of you who don't know, the Constitutional Convention is a body that's been set up by the government. There are 33 elected representatives, both senators and TDs, and members of the Assembly from Northern Ireland on it. And then there's 66 ordinary people like you and me that have been randomly selected by government. They're supposed to be representative of Irish society, or rather representative at least of the electoral register, and they all gather together in a room. Oh, and there's a chair, so there's 100 people altogether, and an independent chair included in that. They've gathered almost monthly for the last few months, and they've dealt with a wide range of issues, from same-sex marriage, which they made a positive recommendation on, encouraging the government to legislate and change the constitution to provide for same-sex marriage. They've asked the government to make the clause in relation to women in the home in the constitution gender neutral. They've also encouraged the government to reduce the voting age from 18 to 16. So they've made a whole range of recommendations, and very broad. One thing the government did do when they established the convention is that they left one meeting agenda-free, let's say, and there was no issue to be dealt with in that final meeting. And they advised that the convention were free to choose any issues that were of interest to them to discuss on that day. I suppose when we saw that, and a lot of other organisations active on ESC rights and other issues as well, decided, this is an opportunity for us, and the ESC Rights Initiative definitely saw that as a potential to create a platform and to discuss these rights that we definitely feel are really very important, and a wide platform, a platform that has national interest, both from the politicians themselves, but also from the media and somewhat from the general public. So we decided to try and to campaign to get those rights put on that agenda. And I suppose we've been engaging through the submissions process, in terms of generating submissions to the convention recommending economic, social and cultural rights for review. But also the latest phase that the convention are doing is a series of regional meetings The first regional meeting was last Wednesday in Cork, and I was there, I shouldn't remember, and then there was another one last night in Galway, and they're going to continue to move all around the country to Athlone, to Sligo, Monaghan, Waterford. There's 2 meetings in Dublin. And basically what we're trying to do now as part of this phase is to encourage people to get out and represent their issue, whatever that issue may be, but preferably you'll be interested in supporting economic, social and cultural rights. There are a broad range of issues, I suppose, for want of a better word, competing for the same space, and not that we want to create a competition, but there is a great deal of interest in that final meeting. The environment is very strongly represented, and actually at the meeting that I attended in Cork, there was a vote, and the environment came out as it topped the poll, I suppose, in terms of issues that should be reviewed in the final session. Economic, social and cultural rights, the issue that we're dealing with, came joint second with local government reform, and then the separation of church and state came in after that. So, there's a real broad range of issues that are looking to be discussed on that final day. But we think that we're in with a really strong opportunity, and we think that if we continue to drive interest and to demonstrate public demand for these human rights, that we will have the opportunity to have a review of them by the Constitutional Convention in February, which is their last meeting. It's been rescheduled from December. So I suppose that's my little introduction to give some context as to what we're doing here. And I'll hand you over to Aidan Lloyd now, who's the chair of the ESC Rights Initiative, to give you a little bit more information.